The Borderlands is the second of two starter zones for new characters tracing back to the earlier days of Dungeons & Dragons. Based on the original by Gary Gygax himself, Standing Stone Games' version of the Borderlands offers players the opportunity to take a close look at what to expect in Dido, while reliving an iconic dungeon delving experience from the infancy of its pencil and paper equivalent. Howdy-o, this is Rabbit of ScrubLeet Academy, and today I want to investigate the lore of the Borderlands. Taking place on a world known as Mystara, or to some, the Known World, the Borderlands host many of the classic monsters of D&D lore. The mountains house goblins and hobgoblins, kobolds, orcs, and gnolls, humanoid creatures well known to new and veteran D&D players alike. A large number of these creatures, due to the influence of a collective known as the Cult of Chaos, who prefer subjugation to subtlety, have recently made their home in some prime real estate in the Caves of Chaos. They were likely named after the group moved in. But that's a story for another video. In this first part, I just want to get a sense of what the Borderlands is like, and relive some of the lore of its denizens. To begin, we take a visit to a Gnoll outpost, where a few Gnolls have made camp. Though very little is known of their reason for being here initially, discussions with a group of Gnolls later hint that this group has been displaced from the larger pack. For Gnoll society, this is something of an egregious state of affairs. The average Gnoll's connection to the pack is a bond stronger than any other, and many Gnolls would rather give their own lives than risk harm to the pack. To be displaced as such is one of the worst punishments a Gnoll could suffer, and hints immediately at the damage the Cult of Chaos has caused. The player comes across several abandoned structures, one of which being a watermill patrolled by a single Gnollish forward scout. Very little of value remains, and the mill has been boarded up. The wildlife, both living and dead, is rather sparse in the wake of the descended mountain tribes, who've likely hunted these creatures nearly to the last. Deer and squirrel are few, and even the more numerous wolves, those not enlisted in service to the goblin tribes, are not particularly common. However, one creature the player will notice in droves is the local giant crab population, which seems to be thriving despite the destructive habits of the monster races. A large spider den lays to the south, where a small number of giant spiders have webbed a place for themselves to recuperate from being hunted by the human residents of the Borderlands, the lizard folk, and the newcomers. The lizard folk, on the other hand, have been nearly exterminated by the human population, a few permitted to live as a means of training aspiring human adventurers by the Lord of the Borderlands Keep. They've constructed a small village, but they are not willing to take being slaughtered lightly, and will fight viciously to survive. A couple of Gnolls have come to train raptors. Where they managed to find one is a mystery, but they're definitely resourceful. They may be found in the southeast, patrolling and hunting to feed their small outpost. A hunter's lodge, formerly the primary location for many of the wilderness game hunters to gather after scavenging, lays abandoned and shuttered, much like most of the Borderlands' homes and businesses. Nature, ironically, has reclaimed this place, and giant beetles are common finds here. The player finds the river dammed by a couple fallen trees, and may ascend the hill to a seemingly abandoned campsite that occasionally has a rather burly, angry guest. Visit at your own risk. A fisherman's shack reclines unused on the riverside, a couple fish hung and rotting. It's clear the fisherman cleared out of here in a hurry, but his fate remains unknown. The remnants of a racked tower lay about its base, and the site has been reclaimed by beetles and the occasional patrol. Clearly the Borderlands guards and training adventurers weren't enough to hold this place from the armies that came down from the mountain. A caravan, totaled and blood-strewn, sits on the road, laden still with goods. Too bad it's a trap. Some bugbears come running at the first hint of life. Smart for bugbears. One can still hear the crackling of the remains of an old family farmhouse, and the goblins in the field seem to be responsible for the destruction. They, or the fire beetles patrolling the grass nearby. Through rain or shine, the giant obelisk stands sentinel over the land. Chances are it didn't intervene, though. One can see kobolds dancing on the rock nearby, taunting it. Sharp stones hover around a central pillar, perhaps twice a man's height, and thrice a halfling's. What do they mean? Maybe we'll never know. The northeastern plains are well-known harpy hunting grounds. Too bad these two didn't know that. The warnings are posted all over the keep's notice board, but maybe it's the keep lord's fault for not realizing that none of his subjects can read. A statue stares over the keep, flaunting the cult's message to anyone able to look out their front window. Behind it, a group of goblins participates in some kind of sacrificial ritual. There are enough of those little guys to go around, but somehow it still seems a waste of good fireball fodder. A mysterious circle of mushrooms sprouts from the ground between some rocks arranged in a circular pattern. Notably, the goblins don't seem too keen to get close. Is it because they're just not interested? Or does it have something to do with the chill I get down my spine just standing here? A fiendish altar juts awkwardly from the natural world around it. Placing 3 crests into its trio of slots summons a demon, but not a very powerful one. Still, probably a good idea to get rid of it. The goblins, a plague on this land, have sacked this farmhouse, but they've clearly stayed away from the sole scarecrow guarding its fields. That's not suspicious. Behold, the infamous bee-man! Or is it the mad hermit? Still, Enoch seems a lot less obsessed with his bees, and a lot more into lions than I remember. It might be time to move on to the caves, though, now that we've seen the effects of this cult of chaos in the local populace and wildlife. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment. Do you like these kinds of videos? Would you like to see more of Dito's story in the future? Tell us what we might have missed, and what your thoughts are on the story thus far. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Next time, we'll delve into the Caves of Chaos. Bye-bye for now.